Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Sober Bliss Meets. Today, I'm joined by the lovely Emma Lewis, who is also known as Emma Sober Sonic on Instagram. So you've probably seen her already. Hi, Emma. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, morning, Gail. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you again. We had a lovely chat the other day, didn't we? And I just want to kind of share some of the insights that we had together with our lovely listeners and viewers. Um, so, just to start off, Emma, just tell everybody a little bit about you, kind of how long you've been walking this sober path, and kind of why you decided or what drove you to take the plunge, if you like, to a sober life.
Yeah, it did feel like taking the plunge. It felt like jumping off a big cliff.
Yeah.
So I stopped drinking back in 2015. Wow. So in November this year, I will have had 5 years of a no drinking life, which just saying that aloud, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe that's me. That feels insane to be able to say that, actually, because when I stopped drinking, I had never had any periods in my life apart from my 2 pregnancies when I hadn't been drinking. And I think like a lot of people have done maybe a month of not drinking, or they've done sort of sober challenges, or maybe they've not, for health reasons, they've stopped for a little bit or something, but that wasn't me. So I had always had alcohol in my life, been surrounded it. It was part of the wallpaper, really. So deciding to stop was such a foreign thing to do. It was a complete anathema, and I'd been thinking about it for a year previously. And when I say I've been thinking about it, I bought a book. So I'd done some sort of some searches on I think on Amazon it was, and I'd come across Jason Vale's How to Quit Drinking Easily, and I was probably drawn to the bright pink and yellow cover. Oh, that looks bright and cheery. Read a few reviews, which kind of convinced me that it would work. If not for long term, it would work for a few weeks. So I ordered the book, it arrived, and then I didn't read it. I just put it on the shelf. Like I had this thing in my head that had been enough to convince me to buy a book to help me quit drinking, but I didn't act on it. I was like, what will I do? What will I drink? How will I interact with people? How will I socialize? How will I go about like normal things? Because alcohol had always been, literally embedded in my life. It was part of my job. It was part of my family, sort of how we all, bonded or whatever. And same with friendships. So to suddenly stop something was just like, well, then what will there be? And I kind of had that classic, there will just be this empty abyss thought. There will be nothing. Life will be boring. Life will be empty. Life will be just not worth living, because alcohol is the thing that makes it, exciting. It makes it fun. It makes it, those moments of irreverence, or just where you go out and you don't know quite where the night's going to take you. It makes it exciting. Only it wasn't exciting anymore. I was waking up feeling, riddled with anxiety. What had I said or done last night? Everything was a bit jumbled, a little bit unclear. And also, I'd been suffering with chronic pain for several years in the run up to that. So life had become quite sedentary, also painful. So for me, relaxing at the end of the day with a glass or 2 of wine on the sofa, watching something that I probably watched before but couldn't quite remember until I'd got, certain way in, or you know, or I'd remember the first bit and then wouldn't remember the ending, or you know, that kind of classic stuff. And it was like alcohol was such, you know, such a part of my day-to-day life that taking it out, or even thinking about taking it out, I kind of like, you know, on a deep level knew it needed to go, but acting on it was like, oh my God, I don't want to get started on this. What will I do? You know? And then, like, I guess I did the classic, you're not that bad. And, you know, I wasn't that bad. I didn't have like a really bad rock bottom sort of scenario. Nothing really awful happened that was catastrophic. And in a way, if it had, that might have made things a bit easier, because then you had like this awful thing that you could then go, right, you know, no more of that. But it was just kind of like, you know, just like being drip fed. And so I kind of told myself that, you know, now wasn't the right time, you know, like as we do, yeah, you know, it's Christmas, or oh, it's going to be my birthday, or you know, it's going to be a wedding. So all those kind of classic things as to why I didn't need to stop. Basically, I just given myself lots and lots of excuses. And in the meanwhile, you know, that really vivid pink and black spine of his book was like literally every time I looked up from the sofa, there it was. And I kind of just got to a point where I got fed up of looking at the book, and I just kind of thought, you know, like I sort of set myself a deadline. If I haven't read it by then, I'm just going to clear it out in January. You know, that's like my time of year when I get rid of a lot of stuff, do a lot of decluttering. I thought, if I haven't read it by then, I'm never going to read it, so I'll just get rid of it. So, you know, kind of rumbled on. And it's funny how, like, with time now, Facebook sometimes shows us some memories, doesn't it? And the other week, it showed me that I'd been in a pub in Ireland, and we had a great night with my husband and his family. But the thing about the photo that I'd taken was that it was the business card for the pub. It was also a funeral parlour. And so it was like this dual functioning business of a pub and also a funeral parlour. And obviously, you know, we use alcohol to celebrate so many things in our life, but it's also an integral part of wakes or, you know, commiserating. And, you know, I'd been struck enough by the business card to take a photo of it. And it was kind of like, you know, again, there's that little kind of seed growing in my head that was saying, this thing that we're all so wedded to and we all think's wonderful is actually slowly, you know, killing ourselves. And I was waking up, I wasn't getting very good sleep. I was waking up feeling stressed and, you know, oh my God, you know, what happened, or what did I say, or did I say or do something, or did I text somebody, all that kind of classic stuff. And then no, it's all right, you know, just have another drink and sort of forget about it. And you know, that was just getting more like my legs would feel really heavy. And it became like, it wasn't even like I was drinking a lot in quantity. I just got this thought ever increasingly in my head that I was actually just poisoning myself, and that every drink I had, I was drinking poison. And once you've got that thought in your head, it's pretty hard to carry on. But you know, I've been drinking since early teens, so I was hardened to all of that. I was up for the challenge, so I kept on going. Then I had a particularly bad hangover, where I'd gone out the night before Halloween with some friends, gone out for dinner. When the bill came, so did a load of shots. Not everyone wanted to have theirs, so I was like, oh, you know, don't let that go to waste. You know, I can help out here. And, you know, the next thing I knew, we'd all ended up back at mine, and, you know, we're raiding the cupboard and drinking whatever we could get our hands on. And the next day I was awful. And, you know, but the show goes on, right? So took the children to their swimming lesson. And I mean, oh my God. Yeah, the smell of chlorine, the heat of the changing rooms, the claustrophobia of it all. I mean, and like there's me, a woman in her early 40s, looking like death warmed up, clutching a can of Coke, like literally, can you open the cafe early because I need a can of Coke, like need some sugar, need something, you know, trying to get two little mini children. I mean, they were, I don't know, about 5, you know, like 5 and 4 or something, that kind of age, through swimming lessons, feeling awful. And it was just like, oh God, you know, not more of this. When I got home, and, you know, I'd put a post up on Facebook, you know, weaker people would have stayed at home and wouldn't have taken their kids to the pool with a hangover, and, you know, and like got loads of likes, all that kind of like, so many people cheer you on, and so you feel like what you're doing's fine. I got home and literally collapsed on the sofa. So my children had the best day ever because when they said they were hungry, I was like, oh, you know, like waved a dying arm off the sofa, go and get some more crisps or a penguin biscuit or whatever. And you know, and they just watched back to back Simpsons episodes, so they were having the day of their lives. They were like, this is brilliant. Meanwhile, I'm getting extra lashings of mother guilt at this point. Then my dad phoned me to have a chat, and halfway through the conversation I had to give the phone to my son to go and be sick, because the sheer effort of trying to sound together was just too much, you know. It was awful. And, you know, that was Halloween night, so we were going out trick-or-treating. You know, I've still got last night's makeup on. I look horrific. I must have stank to high heaven. Literally just put on my white Morticia mask and my black hair wig, got dressed up, went trick-or-treating. I mean, literally, you know, that kind of, that imagery, feeling like death warmed up, just awful. But, you know, the show goes on and you power through because, you know, you're in the mum's club and we can do this stuff, and parenting's really hard and we need wine and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, all of that kind of camaraderie and bravado and nonsense, when actually we're just, you know, silently dying and killing ourselves with everything that's going on. And I went after the trick-or-treating to a friend's, and she was having a fire ceremony, and I'd never done a fire ceremony before. And she said, oh, would you like to join in? And I was like, oh, you know, well, what's it all about? She said, oh, well, you know, you write down some intentions or some thoughts, and then you just put them in the fire. I was like, okay. I was feeling pretty rotten, pretty hanging by this point. So literally on my piece of paper, it just all came out, how I needed to stop doing this to my body, needed to kind of make some changes, how unhappy I was, and that, you know, now was the time to actually draw the line in the sand and to move forward. So I did that, and I popped it in the fire, and then the next day I picked the book up off the shelf and I started reading. So my sober date is the 9th of November. And, you know, during that week, Jason says, carry on like drinking, but he also, like, he used the analogy of bananas. Like, you know, you wouldn't say, oh, I can only have fun at party if I'm eating a banana, you know, or I can't go to such without a banana. And because I really hate bananas, that analogy worked really well for me. So I was like, bananas are the last thing that would make me happy. So that, you know, that really worked. And he also said that, you know, if you started drinking again, that you couldn't really read his books, it wouldn't work to the same level. So there was that horrific fear, you know, that horrific fear that if I muck up, stuff up, his book's not going to work. And back then there weren't that many books, there weren't loads of podcasts, there wasn't people on Instagram, there wasn't really a sober community, there weren't alcohol-free drinks. You know, there was very, very little. There was Soberistas, but I was too scared to even log on, because you know, everybody drank. That's what everybody did. There wasn't anyone who didn't drink. And the people who didn't drink, kind of, I just felt like I didn't identify with people who didn't drink. Or if they didn't drink, it was because there was some shame attached to it, or being in recovery, or, you know, kind of really negative connotations. And that just didn't feel like me.
Yeah.
So I read the book, and I kind of didn't really think it was going to work either. Like, I had it in my head that it would work, but then when I did, I was like, oh God, you know, this is me. Like, I've been drinking for ages. It's like something that I do every day. Have come home and have a glass of wine whilst you're cooking dinner. You know, it was all very like sophisticated drinking, if you like, you know. And I mean,
grown up drinking.
Yeah, grown up drinking, and you know, and like I'd grown up with and evolved, if you like, with alcohol. Like, you know, it was Diamond White and all that when I was younger, and Blast Away, and you know, I know, K-cider, all the classics. And then so now I'm like drinking wine. That's sophisticated, right? That's not, you know, stumbling about. Only it's alcohol is alcohol. It's just, you know,
at the end of the day,
another wolf in sheep's clothing, whatever it is in the bottle. Yeah. So so the first few weeks were really weird. I didn't tell anybody. And like, I didn't want to tell anyone because I felt like therefore that meant there was something wrong with me, or, you know, or people would say, oh, well, actually, you're not that bad. You don't drink that much, because I'm drinking the same as them. So then it's like me not drinking becomes a judgment about them not drinking, because, you know, and actually some people drinking more, you know, a lot more. So that felt awkward to kind of come out about that. And also I didn't really know how long I'd be able to stop, and I didn't want to set myself up for, you know, that kind of like, oh yeah, we knew you couldn't go the distance, or that would be short-lived and stuff like that. I just, you know, I think at that point I felt so internally broken. I couldn't have had other people's, I knew that would be the case. On top, it would have just finished me off. You know, it was too much, because it was so hard, literally letting go all of that, and literally jumping into the unknown, because there weren't people going, not drinking's amazing, you'll have a great life. You know, that kind of reassurance wasn't there. About a year or so in, I came across a blog that was written by Laurie McAllister called Girl and Tonic. And oh my gosh, I mean, you know, she's a lot younger than me, but just suddenly finding someone who wasn't drinking and was talking about it and was being really empowered and brave speaking about it was a massive lifeline. So, you know, I'd keep clicking back to her website, had to put on another, you know, another link or another post, and you know, that was amazing. And then, you know, those first few weeks, it was literally, can I get to the weekend? Yeah, can I get through the first week? Okay, cool. Can I get through the weekend? Oh gosh, wow, yeah, okay, right. Can I get from 7 days to 10 days? Because that would be double numbers. Can I do that? Wow, yeah, I can. Okay, right, maybe I can do 2 weeks. Or okay, right, maybe I can now get to, you know, 15 days. Now maybe can I get to 20 days? And it was just really little incremental things. I mean, if I'd said to myself, right, Emma, you're just not going to drink for a month, I'd have been like, there's no way I can do that. And I think at that point, all the failed attempts that I'd had many years previously at stopping smoking really came into their own, because you know, I'd manage a little bit and then I'd go out and then I'd smoke again and stuff, and feel really disappointed, or like, oh God, you know, got to start back again. And you know, that whole having to go back again, at the point that I was, I think I couldn't have gone back again, because I'd have just gone, no, you can't do this, and I'd have stopped. Because I really was that, you know, that kind of low about stuff. So I just kept going, and it was like, you know, I mean, even when, because of the timing, our local Tesco's had a big 25% off 6 bottles pre-Christmas. I even went and stocked up, because I was like, I'll probably be drinking by Christmas. And I wouldn't want to have missed out on the promo. So like, I was like, oh, you know, just hedge my bets. And as it was, I didn't drink. But that was then the thing, could I get through the beginning of Christmas, you know? And it's not even just going out for Christmas meals or Christmas do's or Christmas drinks. It's also navigating, you know, school Christmas fairs, church Christmas fairs, because they reek of mulled wine. Yeah, your face, you're like, oh God, yeah, that overboiled,
sweet,
yeah. And then, you know, not only that, but everyone's drinking it, and so they're breathing it at you, and they're talking at you, aren't they? And it's like, oh God, that's revolting.
It should be enough to put you off for life, just that image.
Yeah, well, I know. Well, and that's the thing, like, so my sense of smell started to change, and those sort of things really turned my stomach. And I was thinking, oh my God, you know, like, we're subjecting children to this. This is their like school fair. It's kind of like almost brainwashing them. This is their rite of passage. But also thinking, oh no, you know, like, if I like had a glass of wine whilst I was making the dinner, and then put the children to bed, like, you know, their bedtime when they were little was me smelling of alcohol. And like, you don't realize that when you're drinking. But if someone had said to me, oh yes, I've stopped drinking so that I don't smell of alcohol when I put my children to bed, I'd be like, oh, you know, I'd have so much judgment against them. I'd be like, that's really stuck up. But you know, it's like, it's only with hindsight, when you stop doing something, that you realize the impact that it was having, or how it was making you feel. And because it was a habit, you just got on with it, and you'd never really questioned it. And like, I think most people, certainly in the UK, they start drinking, and it's either something that they definitely get on board with when they're 18, because, you know, now you're legally entitled to do so, and you've got the ID and blah blah blah. And before then, it's more like, can you? And it's like a symbol of you being cool, or, you know, yeah you can, or you look grown up enough that you got sold it, or whatever. Or at least, you know, when I was a kid, that was the case. But like, it's something that you start doing when you're young, because everybody else does it, and you never really question why you're going to drink, or think about, actually, how long am I going to drink for, or what's this going to look like, or at any point ever really reassess your relationship with alcohol, or re-question, you know, where you are, or is it really serving you? And, you know, that's an education issue, really, isn't it, that just isn't ever addressed until people find themselves at the point they're like, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do, or what to, you know, what to turn to. And, you know, for me, back in 2015, like, I didn't feel like the language of AA was something that spoke to me. And so then left with, you know, thank goodness I read it, and thank goodness, you know, it worked, because otherwise I really hate to think where I'd be in my relationship with it 5 years on. You know, I certainly wouldn't be feeling how I feel now.
Wow, that's an amazing story, Emma. And 5 years is such an achievement, especially, like you said in the beginning, you felt so broken and alone and isolated. But to keep going with it, and to keep strong, and to keep, you know, to honor your decision that this is the choice that you've made, you must feel so empowered and amazing now, looking back on those early days?
I look back and I just think, oh gosh, I wish I could have known then what I know now. You know, the first 3 months were really tough going. It was like just wading through treacle, and there was just, you know, this, you know, like Father Jack kind of like drink in my head, you know, for everything. And it's I know things like, it was like, if we were going out for dinner, I'd say, oh well, shall we go for Chinese, because I really like drinking green tea. So I'd kind of think about places that we could go where, you know, because like I used to work in the food and wine industry many moons ago. Food and wine pairings, like such a snobbery thing. So it's like, okay, well, if we're going to go out, let's go to places where like there'll be a nice drink, because at that point there just wasn't the range of alcohol-free drinks that there are, where I'd feel happy drinking that rather than that I'm feeling like I'm missing out. And you know, I ate a lot of cake, a lot of chocolate, a lot of sweets, and I didn't give myself a hard time about it. I was like, that's fine, you know, that's fine. You're not drinking, so you know, if you want to do that, that's fine. Like sometimes I'd even have a coffee in the evening when I was out, if I was feeling a bit tired, and I was like, that's fine, because that's not having a glass of wine. So it was always, that was like the benchmark. As long as you're not having a glass of wine, treat or reward yourself how you want to. I went to bed very early in the early days, because you know, a lot of people talk about having relaxing bubble baths and things like that, but there's also the connotation of, oh, have a lovely relaxing bath with a glass of wine as well. So it's like, you know, however bad I'd been, I'd never been drinking in bed. So it was like, go to bed early. Get an early night. And it's tiring as well, you know, it's really tiring, either socializing with people or just tiring not doing something, you know, because your whole headspace was like, so taken up by it. And, you know, like I've made so many changes, like I've got so much confidence over the last 5 years. Like, I went back and retrained. I did teaching assistant qualification.
Oh, wow.
Okay, but you know, then go back into the workplace, which I think again was, you know, that felt really brave at the time, and yeah, just felt like I've started to get my identity back, and it's, you know, it's taken a long time, but begun to reconnect with things I enjoyed doing and that I'd sort of forgotten about, because it all became about, you know, if you're going to go for a walk, it'd be, oh, because there's a nice pub there, and then the walk would get cut short because you wanted to go to the pub, and that's really what you were doing. You were going out because you wanted to go to the pub, not because you wanted to go to the walk. So I think, so it's like so many ripples have come from not drinking, so many positive things, people, you know, sort of people around me, and also just coming into contact with new people and exploring, you know, exploring new stuff, like reading books again, because I love reading, but
and not
you know, when
to
you like, oh god,
hold it out like that, and with one eye.
I'll go, oh, wait a minute, what's happened, and like have to go back a few pages. I mean, I'm laughing about it now, but you know, it's actually not funny. It's awful. You know, but the thing is, it's like you could say that. I could have said that 5 years ago, and everyone was same here. And it enforced what everybody does. And this is what everyone does, and so it's okay. I'm not that bad. And really, when you feel inside like you're just losing yourself, and that every step you take, you're actually poisoning yourself. I mean, that's not a good headspace to be in, because ultimately if you carry on doing that, that's you know, sort of self-harm really. And I think the longer that I've not drunk, the more I've kind of come to look back on it as there were things that were painful in my life, or things that were upsetting, and that's, you know, both emotionally and physically, and alcohol was numbing all of that. And you know, it was not numbing me to all the pain of it, but actually it was me punishing myself as well by carrying it on. And you know, it feels lovely to be free from that. Just to wake up with positivity and think, yeah, what's today gonna bring? And you know, this morning the first thing that happened was, oh, my husband hasn't put out the bins and the coffee machine isn't playing ball. Well, you know, if I'd woken up feeling a bit fuzzy around the edges, those two things would have been, and then they'd set the tone for the rest of the day. Like, oh, he won't help, he doesn't put out the bins, he's only got one job, blah blah, I do everything. And then it would be, oh, and you know, the coffee machine isn't working and I need my coffee, and no, you know. And like, I think when you're not drinking, you just don't have that victim mode constantly tuned on. You're like, oh God, he forgot the bins, but he doesn't always. And actually they haven't been yet, so it's not a big deal. I could just nip out and put, you know, I can do it.
Yeah, you take everything in your
I'm not in my dressing gown still, you know, stinking of booze. I haven't woken up feeling fuzzy, and it's like, oh, never mind. You know, I'll get the manual out and look properly at the coffee machine later. It's, you know, it's all right. Rather than I need my coffee. It's like, so you know, it's like, honestly, there's not a day that goes past when something doesn't happen when I don't think, oh God, thank God I don't drink. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was drinking.
Yeah. I think that's it, isn't it?
And that's 4.5 years on, you know. It's still, you still think, oh my God, that's great. So good.
And yesterday, the day before, when we had a little chat, we kind of touched a little bit on emotions, because like you said before, when we're drinking, we numb everything down. And when we're not drinking, all of these emotions tend to come up, sometimes unexpectedly, sometimes, you know, while we can be really happy one minute and then crying into our tea the next minute. It's a bit of a roller coaster, isn't it, with regard to our emotions coming up again. How do you deal with the emotional side of things, and does it get easier the more sober time that you have under your belt?
Oh, that's such a good question. It's like, I think, like, feelings and how we respond to things that are going on in our lives, we've kind of got this blueprint from when we've started in, you know, normally in our teenage years or when we're young adults, to fix things with alcohol. And you know, that it's like, you know, breakups with boyfriends, or you know, things maybe not quite turning out how we wanted, and you know, everyone rallies around with alcohol. And those first few months when I stopped drinking, I didn't really feel very much at all, which was just kind of standard. That was it. And then after about 3 months, I started to have this really intense period of all these feelings and memories coming back and resurfacing, which was really unexpected. And, you know, like stuff had come back from about 20 years ago that I sort of, you know, not thought about, not given a second thought to, and, you know, was like really kind of like affecting me deeply and found really upsetting. And it became very emotional, and like say, lots of tears. And I think at that point, that's when a lot of the self-care stuff really started to come in. And you know, by that point I had sort of started to spend the money that I would have been spending on wine, on little treats for me, so like nice fresh flowers, or a special tea, or a nice teapot, or a nice glass. And you know, in kind of doing those things, they were sort of little rewards, but they were also me loving myself again and being kind to myself, because I realized that I had this very, very, very nasty inner critic who was very self-critical, who wasn't very compassionate, and you know, everything I did was just not good enough, was wrong. And you know, with not drinking, suddenly I was able to have a bit of a redress to that critic and be like, well, no, you know, I did this, and you know, to have that little sort of internal dialogue that actually I was to kind of put some distance between what had happened and be able to look at things with, you know, my eyes now, rather than how I'd viewed them and held that story really, really tight. So I think that not drinking sort of helps. And it's like, one of my friends said, well, yeah. So we got chatting at football, and she decided to give not drinking a go as well. And she didn't say that, she just told me she'd done this challenge and she felt amazing. And she said something that really struck with me. She said, well, you numb out all the bad bits, but you numb out all the joy as well. And so I think that, you know, you have all these feelings that come back, all emotions, and really, you know, it's like waves just hitting the beach that's you, and they're hard to deal with, but equally not, you know, there's a balance in that, because you're not dealing with all the shame, the resentment, the self-loathing that you'd had if you were hungover, or if you had maybe not lived up to, you know, the expectations on yourself when you were drinking. So, you know, kind of lose one aspect, and then you get all the other things coming onto you. And you know, they kind of come in waves and they settle down, and but then, you know, you can have things like going to funerals, and you know, all the kind of the grief that comes with a lost loved one. And also then be in a situation where people are drinking around you, and like, oh gosh, you know, I don't know what to do really, because but so you can suddenly just get things literally like a bolt from the blue, but hopefully by that point you've already had enough sober days in your bank to be able to kind of power through it, and to value like the clarity that you have from not drinking, and you know, the peace and the headspace that it's given. I found is essential oils. So I've started using essential oils just over a year ago, and they have helped me connect visions in a way that I just never thought possible, and they've just taken it to a whole new level. And it's like, you know, if you've ever used perfume as a mood booster or to cheer yourself up, you're feeling a bit down, to have a bit of a spritz of perfume and go out, or have that one, or oh, it's winter, I love wearing this one in the winter. It's kind of like that thing, only in the morning or at some point in the day I think, oh, maybe I'm feeling a meh, or a bit, oh god, you know, that afternoon slump or whatever. So rather than saying, oh, you know, I'll have a coffee, or I'll have a spritz of a perfume or something, I'll think, okay, right, have a little look. How do I want to feel, you know, a little bit more joyful, or are things feeling like they're spiraling a bit? and I can't quite put my finger on it. So, okay, do I need to feel a bit more grounded and
Yeah.
really be able to lean into them? And, you know, they have been such a key in managing my emotions and helping to iron out like hormonal, you know, because as women, we've got the whole hormonal thing going in as well. Which, you know, that whole other level of unpredictability, isn't it? It's just, you never know what's going to come your way, and only little can just be like listening, you know, like the proverbial camel that straw that's from camel's back. But yeah, so they have been a wonderful help. But also like reading, that's been really helpful. You know, hearing other people, their emotions, and read about that, because that can really help you process it yourself. You know, oh right, that's what that is. You know, sort of like light bulb moment. And also being part of the sober community, there's so much support in there that, you know, if you're feeling emotional and if you're feeling brave enough to post about, to share, or they're on a platform or on a close with other people who will get it, you know, that's such a release, really, isn't it? Rather than like bottling everything up. But I think I feel a lot more able to communicate my feelings than I did when I was drinking, because talking about how I felt was a sign of, you know, a big sign of weakness. And like, I think the only time that you really share your emotions and your feelings when you're drinking is when you've had a few too many, and then they all kind of overspill, don't they? And there's and then the next day thinking, oh my God, did I overshare? What did I say? What did I say? So you never really deal with how you're feeling. Whereas with sobriety, you really do. You know, you get on top of them and you address the stuff, and you heal. You know, it's
absolutely,
you know, you heal from it.
So just before we go, Emma, what advice or tips would you give to somebody who's watching this, listening to this, and feeling like, oh, this sounds all too familiar, or my drinking is making me feel unhappy and I don't quite know what to do?
It's such a lonely place. Such a lonely place, that. I think what I'd say is there is never a right time to stop. You know, there is never that perfect moment to think, oh, well, I'll do it when such and such is out of the way, or, you know, I've got this on at the moment, so I couldn't, you know, couldn't do something else. You know, if you're feeling like that, just dive in straight away. Don't put it off. If you feel brave enough to go and seek medical advice and speak to your GP, then, you know, great. I mean, my experience was with my GP that it was like, oh, well, you don't really drink that much, and, you know, like, kind of, because I guess, you know, if you don't fit some kind of view of what they have, and if you're kind of outwardly coping and you're good at masking, and you know, you look like you've got everything under control, then it's not really gonna sort of flag up any sort of alarm bells to people. One thing that I did early on in my sobriety, actually, because I didn't have Instagram, so it was about sort of being accountable, was I went and told my GP and my dentist that, you know, I didn't drink, and just like, you know, writing it down, getting it out there, drawing it in the line. It was like it was on a medical document now, so I had to plow on through. But I mean, find your tribe, find people. I mean, I really like Instagram, but there's lots of Facebook support groups. There's lots of different challenges. And it's got to be what works for you. If you like podcasts or listening to Quit Lit, there's so many books, so many podcasts.
Yeah.
I'm not really an audio person, so for me, and they weren't around. So for me, the books were what really helped. Yeah, and like listening to someone's story. And also reach out, people on Instagram with sober accounts, we've all been there. It's a bit like if you're roller skating, you're an amazing roller skater. Actually, those amazing roller skaters all started off falling over, clutching onto the barriers, and sitting down and lacing their boots and saying, oh, I'm never going to do that again. I made a complete fool of myself, can't do that. With sobriety, you literally, everyone starts the same. And I guess as well, work out what your triggers are, and if it's going to be too hard to go out to a party, don't. If there's something that you want to do, have a plan in place. Like if I'm going to stuff, I'll often ring ahead and see what they've got on the menu, and if they haven't got anything, say, can I bring my own? And the worst thing they can do is say no, and most of the time they say yes, and they also give me chiller space as well. That's it's like there's only so many Diet Cokes or J2Os people can drink without getting a cracking sugar headache in any case. And then it's like, well, what's the point? I'm going to have a headache from drinking, or a headache from drinking loads of sugary drinks. If you're kind of like wobbling, you think, oh well, I'll just get a cab and blah 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 blah. But because I think in the early days we'll do anything to talk ourselves out of it, and actually you just need to be really really strong, and just don't question the decision, and just plow through, and be kind and gentle, because you can do amazing things. The alcohol is just telling you that you can't, and you've got in that place where you think you can't, but actually you can. And,
you absolutely can.
And there's so much amazing things that just happen. You just enjoy life so much more. Just the wonder of little things. The wonder of seeing a butterfly or a bee on something that you've got in either your garden or someone else's garden when you're on a walk, or you just stop and notice stuff. And that just gets you back in touch with your body, with your thoughts, your mindfulness. And I think when you're drinking, certainly for me, I was always like in catch-up mode, and I just never had time to stop and think and contemplate. And that's no way to live, really. No fun.
It's not. And it reminds me a bit about Jason's book. I didn't really like it, but there was one bit in it that really stood out to me. And it's like when you stop drinking, your body literally sighs with relief, as if to say, thank you.
Yes.
And I think that's with life in general. When you're not drinking, we do get this, beautiful opportunity just to sigh and say thank you. We can live our life how we want to live it again.
Oh, absolutely. And like that first time when you look in the mirror, and it's about 3 months in, and you suddenly see some sparkle in your eyes. It's like, wow. And you don't realize that the sparkle had gone, because it's eroded over such a long period of time. We've just got used to it. And I remember seeing that at 3 months, seeing like this sparkle in my eyes that I hadn't seen for ages, and my skin was looking clearer. And I was like, wow. And it was that first flicker of physical visibility that I was like, oh, okay. Right. Yeah, there's some serious benefits to this that I can actually see. Like seeing is believing, isn't it? You can read all the stuff, how it's good for your mental health, or it's good for your internal organs, or your giving your body a better chance at, swerving some awful things that, hello, we're just going to shut them in the cupboard and lock the door and not even think about them. But when you actually look in the mirror and you see a pair of eyes sparkling back at you, you go, oh my goodness, wow. And for me, that was just, that moment would often be real nourishment later on in the journey, because they do get hard parts, and not because necessarily not drinking is hard, but because life is hard, because things happen, because that's life. And you could have a drink. No, that's not going to make it better. It's not going to change anything. Well, it will actually. It will change your ability to manage it and to get on top of it and to carry on, and also your ability, speaking as a parent, of how you can support your children whilst difficult things are happening. And it's a fact of life that difficult things come our way from time to time. But I think now I feel like finally I can do all those difficult things without thinking I need a glass of Sauvignon Blanc to help me with this or to relax me, because I can do this on my own now. But yeah, it's been tricky getting to that point. Yeah. So I think people just need to reach out if they can. One of the things that I've done on my Instagram page, and I started this over lockdown because Zoom meetings were feeling quite intense. Lots of people were on them drinking. So I started writing to my friends initially, and because of social distancing, I'd chosen a different post box, which meant a nice little walk through a wood, and it was a new one. It was, so it was part of the daily exercise and whatever. And just happened to take a photo of me there, posting some letters, and a few people were like, oh wow, writing letters, that's so old school. And I was like, well, actually I'll write, happy to write to anyone. So since then I've been writing to Sober Penpals, and some of the people I've been writing to, they're not on Instagram, and I get that, because I wasn't for the first 2 and a bit years. That was too out there. And the thing that's really struck me, Gail, is that all the different people from different places in the world that I've been writing to, there are so many common themes between everybody. And that's I think the amazing thing is that when we stop drinking, we feel so alone, and it's only us, and we feel really isolated, and we're the only person who feels like this, or this is happening to. But actually everybody who's on this sober path has those those same common feelings or threads in their backstories. And it's just great that there's this sort of community that where people are sharing and connecting, and it's lovely. It's really good.
So if anybody's watching this or hears it, or how do we get involved with the Sober Pen Pals?
Just send me a DM. Just send me a DM. And then and the nice thing about it is that it's just basically at our pace. I
love receiving a letter in the post. This morning when I got my Angel Delight, it's not quite the same as a letter, but
well, do you know what? So just here, I've got a great big box full of letters.
Wow.
I've had so many letters through the post during during lockdown. Good. It's been fabulous. I've even had some from Spain as well.
Oh, have you really?
Yes. Yeah. Australia is the worst. We've worked out that literally it takes 2 months for a letter to go.
Okay. Well, I think I might send you a letter as well.
Oh, that would be lovely. I'd love to receive one.
It would be. Emma, thank you so much. This has been lovely, and we'll have to do it again soon. And I really hope that people watching this, listening to this, get some inspiration from listening to Emma's wonderful story. And I'll put all the links down underneath this video. So, you know, reach out to Emma or to me, you know, for anything. If you want some help, some advice, some support, if you want to send a letter to Emma, then do reach out and get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.